Pokemon Go has over 800 Pokemon currently available to catch in-game, with several hundred of them only acquirable through evolution. But have you ever wondered what the rarest, hardest, most difficult Pokemon there are in the entire game to evolve and get into your decks? Today we figure that out and look over the top 10 hardest Pokemon to evolve in all of the history of Pokemon Go. So, consider yourself lucky if you have any of these. Starting with Baxcalibur. Now, I have one of these because I'm a professional, but many of you probably don't, because this cool Godzilla-looking thing is one of the rarest Pokemon you can currently get in-game. Frigibax was released back in September of 2023 during an Ultra Unlock event that put it in the wild. Since then, the most common place to find these guys are in the 10-kilometer eggs specifically, where they are super hard to hatch, as you can see from the Tier 4 hatch in the 10-kilometer eggs that they are. So even though you hatch a 10K, the likelihood of getting a Frigibax, way low. And then having to get enough candy to evolve it all the way, even harder. Have you ever realized how insanely hard it is to get evolution items in game? If you were to go out and spin 100 Pokestops, you might get one. And the only way to really guarantee one is by getting your 7-day research breakthrough box, where you get either like a Sinnoh Stone or a Unova Stone, kind of depends on the month. But with these guys, nothing's ever guaranteed, which is why I have so many of them and I refuse to transfer any of them out because they're so rare. These items were released back in 2017 and were so common at the time that players would consistently be deleting them from their inventory, or just randomly evolving super trash Pokemon just to like use them. Fast forward 7 years later and they are literally impossible to find in game. So much so that the Google Play and App Store are both swamped by negative reviews from players who can't find a specific evolution item they're looking for. They're literally causing people to quit the game. And the Pokemon that you can get from them are quickly becoming some of the hardest to get in game ever. These include Kingdra with the Dragon Scale, Politoed and Slowking with the King's Rock, Scizor and Steelix with the Metal Coat. And for the Sunstone, Blossom, Sunflora, Whimsicott, Lilligant, Heliolisk, Porygon 2 with the upgrade, and then Sinnoh and Unova Stone with all of their respective evolutions. Previously super easy to get, now impossibly hard. Next up is a Pokemon that was released in 2024 that you might have, but you probably don't. In March, during the Pokemon Horizons event, we were all blessed with the new Pokemon Charcadet. This is an egg-exclusive Pokemon that you can only find in the 2, 5, and 10-kilometer eggs. The rarity tiers for its hatches are as follows. Tier 4 for 2-kilometer eggs, Tier 3 for 5-kilometer eggs, and Tier 1 for 10-kilometer eggs. So hatching it is pretty hard to do, even with it being a Tier 1 hatch and a 10-kilometer egg. But that's the thing, if you move enough eggs, you'll definitely hatch one. But hatching is only part 1 of the equation. Part 2 is you have to evolve it. Charcadet evolves into 2 different forms, Armorage and Cerulege, which I have one of each. We've got Armorage here and Cerulege here. Cerulege is the cooler one. To get these Pokemon though, it's kind of difficult. To get Armorage, you have to defeat 30 Psychic-type Pokemon. And for Cerulege, it's 30 Ghost-type Pokemon. Although if I'm not mistaken, you can just battle a friend who's using 10 CP Ghost or Psychic-type Pokemon and that counts, but it's still kind of hard to do. Okay, I know this next Pokemon had a community day and everybody got a lot of candy for it back in the day, but Stuffle is easily one of the hardest Pokemon to evolve if you did not play Calm Day years ago. This cute little teddy bear has been devilishly hard to get since its release back in April of 2023. Why? 400 candy evolutions. Certain Pokemon like Magikarp and Stuffle require 400 candies to evolve rather than the normal 25, 50, or 100. Plus, Stuffle doesn't hatch from eggs, it's never in the raids, it's not commonly in research, and it really only spawns as a part of a couple of events per year, like the Valentine's Day events, for example. So if you don't have a Beware yet, good luck getting it. Your best bet? Grind Stuffle spawns as much as you can when they spawn and use your Pinap Berries, because 400 candies can be hard to get when the Pokemon is not around much. In September of 2022, in special research only, a brand new legendary Pokemon was released for the first time ever. Cosmog. There's the catch though, this special research didn't give you any Cosmog candy. Until you got to stage 4, which it gave you 25, which was enough to evolve your Cosmog over to Cosmoem. So that was fine and dandy. Then the rest of the special research gave around 100 more candy to kind of save up or use to power up, as you choose. And then this Pokemon was available to catch once more during the Starry Skies research that gave a second encounter with Cosmog. But no extra candies. So you could evolve your Cosmog to Cosmoem essentially for free, but if you want to evolve your Cosmoem, you're in trouble. You're in a bit of trouble. With the new fusion feature, Lunala and Solgaleo are some of the most useful Pokemon in-game after fusion. But to get one of those two, you have to evolve to them first, which is impossible to do if you don't have the Pokemon and specifically don't have the resources. You see, there were only 2 times ever players could catch Cosmog and get candy for it. Since then, there have been no eggs, raids, research, nothing. No way to get more Cosmog and more specifically, more Cosmog candy. So if you now have one of these Pokemon and you want to get candy to power it up or evolve it, you'll basically have to save up tons tons of rare candy from battling raids, which is expensive to do, or walk literally thousands of miles with your Cosmog as your buddy with the 1 candy per 20 kilometer rate of a legendary. If you wanted to get XL candy to power up your Cosmog or your Solgaleo or Lunala, you have to get rare candy XL from raids, which is even more rare and more expensive to find in mass. Either way, Cosmog, nearly impossible to evolve now. Back in May of 2024, a new Ultra Beast was released that would be obtainable for free in special research. Poipole. Players could also choose to pay an extra $10 for a special research that would give a second encounter with one. And in May, during the Ultra Space Wonders event, you could finally evolve your Poipole for the first time ever into Naganadel. To this day, these are the only Ultra Beasts never released into raids, and they're some of the hardest to get by far. For starters, you can't even get Poipole anymore because the research for it expired in June 14th. And even if you had one, to evolve it, as you could see, you need 200 candies. The original World of Wonders timed research gave 150 candies roughly, so that was super helpful. But if you didn't do that and you have Poipole, same problem with Cosmog, you gotta use rare candies. And then that's not all. If you look at Poipole's evolution mechanic, there's more to it. You have to catch 20 Dragon-type Pokemon with Poipole as your buddy, which is honestly really hard to do if there's no event happening that has Dragon-type Pokemon spawning or in raids. So not only is evolving to Naganadel really hard to do, but it's also literally impossible to do if you don't have your Poipole or you weren't around when they were given out during the research. Next, we have another Pokemon that was featured during Community Day, but this one's impossible to get for more reasons than just candy. November of 2022 saw the release of Ursaluna in Pokemon Go during Teddy Ursa Community Day, and it released with an insane evolution mechanic. To evolve from Ursaring to Ursaluna, you need 100 candies and a literal full moon. A real-life, up in the sky full moon, which is a really cool mechanic in my opinion, but it kind of makes this Pokemon way difficult to evolve to. Luckily for those players who played during that Community Day and during the December one, you were at the time able to evolve it throughout the day regardless of the moon cycle. Not only that, but Teddy Ursa had a Shadow Shiny available at the time, so if you were lucky enough, you could get a Shadow Shiny Ursaluna day one. This makes Ursaluna one of the hardest Pokemon to evolve to in-game by far, and one of the rarest Shadow Shinies ever. We're gonna do some very expensive math here. Egg math. Hatching eggs in Pokemon Go is technically not random. Each Pokemon has a certain percentage possibility of hatching from each and every specific egg. And Salandit is easily one of the hardest Pokemon to hatch overall and one of the hardest to evolve. You see, Salandit is only available in the 12-kilometer eggs and has only a roughly 5% hatch rate from them, which means you'll have to hatch around 20 12-kilometer eggs on average to find one Salandit. And if you've played long enough, you'll know that hatching 20 12-kilometer eggs is both not easy or cheap to do. Also, that's just to hatch a Salandit. To evolve one, you specifically have to hatch a female, and the odds of that are measly 12.5%. Now, if my math is correct, and I might be wrong here, in order to hatch a female Salandit, you need to hatch an average of 160 12-kilometer eggs. Bro, that's literally impossible for most players, like completely out of the wheelhouse. And when looking into my account, I think I only have one single Salazzle out of, how many of these have I hatched? If we go into the Pokedex, 30. Okay, that's pretty good then. Next is another egg-specific Pokemon that was more recently released in May of 2023. And recently it had its shiny release, which I got. I got the luck. Larvesta hatches out of all 2, 5, and 10-kilometer eggs, which theoretically makes it pretty easy to get. But when you look at each egg, it is in the rarest, hardest to hatch tier out of all of them, and to evolve it to Volcarona, you need 400 candies. With an average hatch rate of less than 1%, you need to hatch potentially hundreds of eggs just to be able to evolve one. And getting the shiny, forget about it. Only I can do that because I've got the shiny luck power. The source is here. And this, by the way, the merch is gonna be available soon. So you too can harness that shiny luck and get these crazy catches. Stay tuned though, all right? Give it maybe a week or two. Soon. Raise your hand and hit something with it if you've actually evolved your Gimmighoul in Pokemon Go. And honestly, props to you if you even know what that is. Gimmighoul's evolution Goldango is probably the most difficult Pokemon in the entire game to evolve to. Like by far, like by a landslide. Here's why. Because it's been released technically since February of 2023, so all of us have had more than enough time to get it. But the reason why I've never successfully evolved to one, and most players haven't either, is because of the insane hoops you have to jump through to accomplish that. For starters, when it first released, least, you needed a Nintendo Switch and the new Pokemon Scarlet and Violet game, so easy $200 off rips. Then you had to play the game to get yourself to a specific point in the storyline. At this point, you needed to link your Pokemon Go account to your Switch and send a postcard from one game to the other. Then you get what's called a coin bag, which is kind of like an incense that, when activated, spawns Gimmighoul around you for 30 minutes. Now, catching as many Gimmighoul and getting as many spawns is great, and candy is fantastic, but it's not what you use to evolve Gimmighoul, because there was another random system implemented into the game for no reason. It was called coins. To get these, you have to spin a Pokestop that has a golden lure module on it. And well, what the heck is a golden lure module, and why is this all so complicated? To get this item, you have to send a postcard from Pokemon Go to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet for 5 days. The lure module lasts 30 minutes, and it gives you 5 to 25 coins every time you spin it. And this is a ridiculous system, by the way, so if you've never engaged in this or you've never gotten your Gimmighoul, don't feel bad. This is ridiculous. What's even more ridiculous is the fact that you need 999 Gimmighoul coins to evolve your Gimmighoul to a Goldango. 1,000 coins. And the only real way of doing this is by working with a local community and having everybody drop a bunch of golden lure modules during a Go Fest or during a community day, so that everybody can spin all the lure modules and farm up the coins. Or you can do it solo, which would take literal months of consistent, dedicated postcard sending, which I don't think anyone's doing. And all this effort technically doesn't really even pay off because Goldango isn't useful in game. Hardest Pokemon to evolve to, not useful. But I do have one courtesy of Tom, aka the cruise ship, so shout out to him. If you have any of these Pokemon, tell me in the comments below, and I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you for watching. Shiny luck. Peace out.